want to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon for the second event of our fall speaker series, Rebuilding Trust in Democratic Institutions. Today's topic is promoting democratic literacy and open expression in higher ed. I am Lisa Lewis, Administrative Manager at the Whitburn Center. Please note that today's session is being recorded and will be available on the Whitburn Center's website and YouTube channel. Please keep your mics muted. We'll have time for a Q&A at the end. And let me give you a quick overview of who we are. We were founded in 2021 through a generous gift from UWO alum Jerry Whitburn. The center conducts nonpartisan, practical research to improve governance and public policy in Wisconsin and beyond. Our goal is to strengthen local government, nonprofits, and communities by bringing people together to share knowledge and provide tools to support the public sector. And now I'll turn things over to Dr. Sam Larson, who will get us started.
Thanks, Lisa, and thank you all for joining us. I see that we have more people coming in, and that's great. I'm Sam Larson. I'm the interim director of the Whitburn Center, and I also want to share with people, in case you don't know, that we also started managing the Wisconsin Alliance for Civic Trust, or WISACT, back in March of this year. And so what's really important to note about that is that we've kind of merged our monthly meetings between Whitburn and WISACT. Because really a couple key important alignments really brought us together. One is the history of WISACT is important because it was really launched by a cross-partisan team. So former Republican Governor Scott McCallum was the Republican co-lead on the kickoff of WISACT, and David Haynes, a former senior editor of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, was the Democratic co-lead. And over the course of about a year, from 2023 to last spring, really, so a bit over a year, they worked to build a coalition of Wisconsinites, about 470 strong now, who essentially believe in some key things that we're going to be talking about in our discussion and on our panel today. So two of the main purposes of WISACT really include working together despite political differences to rebuild trust in democratic institutions, one, and two, to encourage peaceful engagement despite any kind of differences, to really come together and think about what do we share in terms of values and how do we work together to overcome some of the biggest challenges of our time. That includes the challenge of political violence, misinformation, and really kind of rebuilding what we call the civic muscles that we all need to come together and think about how we work as a team, in some cases, despite disagreement and differences, to better society. Lisa had mentioned that the theme for our fall series is really focusing on rebuilding trust in democratic institutions. And so some of you maybe joined us in September, where we focused on a free and independent media. In October, our focus is on civics education. And so when we talk about civics education, it's why it's so exciting to have the panelists that we have today, who are student leaders of different organizations here at UW Oshkosh. And the key piece of civic education that I think is important is focusing on, fostering understanding for all of us around what are the rights and responsibilities and kind of practicalities on the ground of what it means to be a citizen of this country. How can we foster informed and engaged participation amongst people, especially young people at this moment that can seem incredibly fearful in many ways, and something that a lot of folks kind of just say, that's something that is too much for me, that I just don't want to be involved in. So how do we bridge that gap and bridge the divides that we're seeing? The other thing that I want to just give voice to is, right, over the last several months, we've all together experienced and witnessed some pretty traumatic, heinous acts of violence, from the shootings in Minnesota to the assassination in September of conservative political activists. And so I think that that's a really important thing for us to come together and process as a community. It's something that I think we don't feel we do enough of. And so I'm really looking forward to having some of those conversations today, getting out of our silos and processing, grieving, and thinking about how we move forward together at this moment. We could not have a better moderator for this conversation. And so Mike Ford, the director of the Wisconsin Institute for Citizenship and Civic Dialogue, is here today. You may hear him refer to that as WICKED, which we all agree is not the best acronym, but that is what we've inherited. Mike also, for folks who don't know, is the founding director and senior faculty affiliate for the Whitburn Center. So Mike, we're very lucky that we were able to fit you into our schedule and grateful to have you back with us today. So with that, I just want to thank everybody again for being with us. As a reminder, this will be recorded and posted on our website after. And Mike, I'll let you take it from there.
All right, good to be here. I'll be quick. If you don't know much about Wicked, we are a unit of the Universities of Wisconsin, and our mission is to provide resources, opportunities, and support for teaching and learning and practicing viewpoint diversity, freedom of expression, academic freedom, civil dialogue, and civic participation within our universities and communities. And the fact that the theme this month is civics education is kind of cool because we did just receive a $1.3 million grant from the Federal Department of Education to help advance civic education here in Wisconsin. And part of that's going to be utilizing student focus groups across the UW system. So I'm going to harass this group a little later about maybe getting you involved in some of those. And there will be stipends, so we'll be paying for that kind of stuff. I had a whole preamble about all the challenges we face to try to set the context before I turn it over to you. But I was reading something today a friend of mine wrote, James Scholes, who I've known forever. He's the head of the Educational Liberty Branch at the, what's it called? The Institute for Governance and Civics at Florida State University. And he had a new article out and he just wrote, "It's clear America is experiencing a period of intense political polarization and national soul searching. Public trust in democratic institutions have plummeted over the past decade." I couldn't say it any better, so I'm not going to say it any better. So I'm going to turn it over to all of you. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and just so everybody in the crowd knows, I've shared these questions with the panelists ahead of time, and we're going to have some time for Q&A afterwards as well. So just looking, I'm going to go right across how it looks on my screen. I guess we can start with you then, Christian. I just would ask that you introduce yourself, the organization you're a part of, and why you chose to get involved in it.
Hi, so yeah, my name is Christian Mueller. I'm part of the UW Oshkosh College Republicans. Maybe my story's not as cool as the rest. I was pretty involved in politics in high school among my friend groups. It was nothing I really ever had like a drive to start a club for during high school. But then I got into college. I was actually walking the hallways of Reeve, and I didn't even know that UW Oshkosh had a college Republicans group at all until our former president, his name is Jacob, kind of yelled and pointed at me and said, "Hey, do you want to be a college Republican?" I said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And I got involved from there, and I kept getting involved because the environment on campus and the type of people on campus made it so easy to feel involved and be involved. So yeah, that's kind of my drive for me. It was like it was such a comforting space to be a part of.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian. Emma, I'll ask you the same question. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you're with and how you got involved in it.
Hi, my name is Emma Ponko, and I am the president of the UW Oshkosh College Democrats. I would say my story is actually pretty similar to Christian's. So I come from a smaller town, and I was more personally politically involved. And then when I came to UWO, I was walking through Reeve as well, and I saw the College Democrats table hosting a bunch of free stickers and pins. So my freshman roommate and I went over, and the rest is history.
I feel like there's a lesson here for student affairs that what they're doing in Reeve is working. Get you all involved. This is good. Marco, same question to you.
Well, actually, I actually have a slightly different one here.
Yeah.
In high school, I actually was not super politically involved. Obviously, I knew I leaned one way or the other. I just didn't really talk about it that much, didn't do that much research. Got out to college and thought, you know what, I should educate myself on why I think the way I do. I should educate myself on XYZ things so that way I know that I'm making the right decisions. And part of that involved looking through the list of clubs and seeing, is there any kind of like political clubs on campus? And when I was a freshman, which was just last year, the only two that I noticed were the college Republicans and the college Democrats. So I did get involved with the college Republicans. And from there, me and a group of people that I met mostly through the college Republicans were talking, and we decided to found a Turning Point chapter. So we went ahead, founded that last February, and we've been hitting the ground ever since.
Thank you, Marco. And Amanda, last but not least, same question. Who are you? Who are you with? Why are you with them?
Hi, everyone. I am Amanda. I am the co-president of Oshkosh Progressive Coalition. I feel like I've been a pretty political person for a lot of my life, so I think I always had pretty strong values around politics. So that was never kind of a doubt in my mind, but I guess it took me a while to get involved in clubs in general. One of my friends founded Oshkosh Progressive Coalition, and I just kind of found myself in there and eventually found myself in the role of president. But I have really stayed involved with this club versus not really being involved in a lot of other clubs because I feel like a lot of the political action that does happen on campus is very like political party centered. Maybe you're campaigning for a specific person rather than value centered. So one thing I've really tried to push in my club is more applying the values and making it more inclusive and telling people what we're about rather than we're this party. So I found that very fulfilling. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. You keep dancing around my screen. So now I'm looking at you, Emma, because you're up there in the corner in the hot seat. But the second question here. So part of the founding of Wicked came after a student survey around free speech and expression raised some concerns about the culture of free expression on campus across the UW system. So in that survey, I think I won't share the numbers. I forget how many thousands of students participated. But basically, students were asked about their knowledge and beliefs regarding free speech and civic engagement. And I have some specific stuff I'll share later. But I'm just curious, kind of 30,000 foot view, what is your take on the current state of free speech expression on campus, both here at UWO, what you're seeing, but certainly any observations about higher ed in general are welcome as well.
I mean, I think that free speech is definitely still a huge part of at least the UWO campus. Just looking at our panelists, we have multiple clubs that are on the different political spectrum sides. So I think that free speech is definitely still very active here on campus. And I mean, I have encountered in my classes, like me personally, a lot of people who share very different views than I do, and they're able to express those, and they've expressed them in class, and it didn't seem like they felt any fear for any negative backlash or anything like that. So I would say that, yeah, I think free speech on UWO is still very prevalent and definitely out in the world too when it comes to social media and things like that.
Marco, what are you seeing out there? Same question.
For me, I would say it's a lot more of an uphill battle. Coming at this from a more conservative standpoint, there are a lot of instances, at least for me and people in my group, where we do feel like we need to self-censor ourselves, or where we feel like if we don't do that, there will be negative repercussions. And I do regrettably have to say that I can think of at least one instance where that has happened, where we didn't self-censor ourselves and there were negative repercussions. So on campus, it is definitely still an uphill battle. Obviously, there are plenty of people out there who, on both sides of the political aisle who need to get better with that. But there's more people, I think, like the people we have here, who are more willing to sit down and have a discussion, sit down and say, hey, let's all just come out here, speak our minds, be civil, and then go our separate ways, not attack each other, not do anything like that. I think this is something that we need a lot more of on campus, at least. where people are able to speak their minds freely, regardless of what they think, and not need to be afraid of, well, this campus organization is going to get mad at me, or this professor is going to hurt my grade. Regarding out in the, what I'll call the real world, quote unquote, I think it's getting better. I do definitely think that people on both sides of the political aisle who are more moderate, I think, are afraid to speak up because, like, for me, I'm more moderate. I'm more of a moderate conservative. And if I'm saying something that's a moderate thing, now I have to worry about the people who are crazy radically far on the right saying that I'm too liberal. I have to worry about people that are crazy far radical on the left saying that I'm a radical fascist Nazi. And I think that moderate Democrats face the same issue, where if they speak their minds, then they're going to have the radicals on both sides attacking them. So that's definitely something that we need to consider as well.
No, thank you, Marco. And yeah, one thing that came out of that survey was I believe 9% of students said that they felt like there was things they couldn't say in class. They were worried their professors would punish them. And I admit, I initially read that and I was like, oh, that's not so bad. But then I applied what I call the airplane test. Like, would I get on a plane if I had a 91% chance of landing? Probably not. We probably want to strive for 0 on that, right? If 1 out of 10 are feeling that way, that's not good. Amanda, same question for you. What do you see in free speech world out there?
I think it's a little hard because I'm a political science major. I know Christian is as well, and Marco, I believe, is too. And I'm double majoring in education, which I've had overlapping classes with Emma in that. And I think those are two programs where people are comfortable talking about politics. So my experience at UWO, I think, has been probably the places where you have the most open political conversations. So I think it is really hard for me to kind of see the whole big picture. But I will say, from what I've seen, I think everybody is comfortable expressing their opinions, and having that conversation in my classes and around campus. I think a lot of kind of what we learn in political science is like, if you make a good argument, you make a good argument, regardless of how I feel personally about, that belief. And that's my approach. I know a lot of others as well. But, that said, I think that there are definitely a lot of other students who aren't as comfortable or involved with the world of politics and the world of civil dialogue more formally. And they might have a very different experience and would be less comfortable. And I completely respect that space as well.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. And that's a great point, right? Disciplines. I think we can get, well, I don't know. I should speak for myself. I can get myopic on that too. Like you, all of you, always political science and stuff. And well, of course, we're always mixing it up. But if maybe it's not the same for a biology major. Um, but Christian, same question. Last but not least to you.
Specifically when we want to talk about the UWO campus, I've had nothing but a great experience here, from the start of my freshman year until junior year now. The political climate here on campus, I think obviously you get a couple of your tablings, and somebody flips you off or makes a rude comment. That happens. All right. Um, should it happen? No, it shouldn't. But I think overall, when I've ever tried to have conversations with people, um, when I've tried to have dialogue with people, I know me and Amanda sometimes talk about politics. It's always respectful. I don't think I've ever looked at her any differently after I've had a conversation about politics with her. Same goes to with some of my Democratic friends that I have. So I think the space here on campus, um, is a very good one, and a good environmental or a good environment to discuss and have those conversations. Something I would like to talk about though, or build on to Amanda, is I've been in the business department and I've been in the political science department. Do I specifically know what that climate is like in other departments here on campus? No, I can't say that because I haven't been there, or I haven't talked to students in those departments who maybe feel a different way than I do, or they're not comfortable. But I can for sure say in political science and business, I've never had an issue with that.
Oh, thank you, Christian. And this is a good segue. We can stick with you, Christian. We'll keep you on the spot here. And Marco touched on it a little bit, but sticking with the UW student survey, one thing that survey did show was that there were a good number of students that did feel like or did express that they were self-censoring, both in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom in conversations with their fellow students. And they were saying, all kinds of different reasons. Sometimes it was just fear that someone would disagree with them, fear that it wasn't the right point or the right time and place to have that conversation, concern that's going to impact their grade. And there was a disconnect there where conservatives were more likely to report that they were self-censoring than liberals. So I'm curious, two questions. One, do you see this happening? Feel free to share your personal experience or not. But I guess more importantly, what can we do as a campus community to try to push back against this self-censorship?
So yeah, unfortunately, as a conservative, I feel like, I'm more of a moderate Republican than a moderate conservative. But a lot of the times, my experience is that I have to bite my tongue a little bit in classroom atmospheres, um, for fear of. I feel a lot of, and this is coming from a Republican standpoint. A lot of the arguments made on the left are more, a morality, um, a more touchy feely argument. And in a lot of sense, I get some of the arguments that they make. But then at the same sense, when it's me coming in with something I don't disagree or I don't agree with, it's going to sound real harsh, unfortunately. And you don't always want to be that guy in the environment in a group of people that you don't know, and saying those types of things, or being the disagreeer in the room. That's kind of hard. And I feel like that type of pressure on students creates an atmosphere of self-censorship, because you don't want to be put in that spot of, maybe you have that feeling and you're not as educated on it, or you're not, you don't understand it fully, but you do support, you just don't know why you support that. Well, I think you should if you make a comment about it. But that's kind of where I come from on that angle.
Well, thanks, Christian. We'll go to you, Emma. Same question.
I can't personally say that I've really seen any self censorship that I remember, but that could be because in the last 2 years, all of the classes that I've taken have been social work and sociology classes. So a lot of people have the same viewpoints that I'm bringing in just because of what we're studying. So I wouldn't say I've really seen it too much. It seems that in the classes that I'm in, people feel safe to speak their mind. There have been a couple times where I've self-censored just a little bit, just for fear that my opinion might have been considered too radical. So that's the only instance I can really think of. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the kind of people that I'm surrounding myself with in all of my classes every day.
Sorry, I was muted there. No, thank you, Emma. And you made a really good point there. I mean, I don't know, it's hard. I think we all self-censor, but right. It's one thing if my wife asks me, how does your haircut look? I'm going to self-censor if I don't think it looks good because right. There's a time and a place for honesty, and there's a time and a place for self-protection. And this is going back to Wicked's mission, right? We want to have a campus community where we can have opposing viewpoints and can have civil dialogue around those opposing viewpoints and protect those viewpoints even when they're not maybe expressed in such a civil manner. Because we can't do it on a college campus where can't we do it, right? Sorry, I'm opining there. I'll turn it over to you, Marco, especially since you first brought up the idea of self-censorship, and it does track with what the data shows. I'm curious what you are seeing there. And I guess since you already mentioned you're seeing it, how do you think we combat it?
Well, regarding the combating it, it's a matter of, I'll say this. I can't speak to how people on the political left feel about that. I haven't really heard anything from that side. So so I'll just say take everything I have to say with the grain of salt of I am coming at this from the perspective of a conservative. Keep that in mind. Um, for me, it's a matter of, I don't know. It's for me personally, the only place I really do feel comfortable fully speaking my mind freely is at turning point in college Republican meetings, because those are the only places where I know for sure that I'm not going to have another student or a faculty member or someone jump in and cut me off and say, well, if you think this way on taxes, then you must be racist. So that's I think a big issue is that there is that climate, at least surrounding academia as a whole, that it is people hear college and they assume liberal left leaning. And whether I'm not getting into the fact of the matter, at the end of the day, people think that way. People think that that's how colleges function, and that does create an environment on its own where conservative students are going to self-censor, because we're coming into an environment that we already think is hostile to us. And then if there is any time where a student or faculty member actually, cuts us off and calls us these things and shuts us down, to us, that's just confirming what we already believed. And then that's just going to make it worse and worse and worse. Excuse me, just getting over a bit of a cold. So that's definitely what I would say is the main issue is, for conservatives, at least, we're coming into what we already view to be a hostile environment. And then there are people that are confirming that belief. So we just need to, at the end of the day, it's just an unrealistic expectation. But the best way to combat it in a theoretical, perfect world would be just people don't attack people who have different political beliefs. That would be the ideal. Realistically, that's not going to happen. The best situation I could realistically say would happen is just faculty members specifically have rules around how they are allowed to talk about politics in class, which I don't think that's too much to ask at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, educators, and at least in my personal opinion, are supposed to teach people how to form their own opinions, not teach them which opinions to have. I don't think that's so much to ask. I think that is just what it should be. So I think that alone would take most of the culture that I described earlier of conservatives think we're going into a hostile environment. If just professors alone were to be a little bit more, I'm not even going to say neutral, a little bit more bipartisan, and say, hey, here's a policy on one side, here's a policy on the other side. Or just encourage discussions that are civil, like this, like what we're having right now. If we had more of this, that would solve everything.
We should turn this monthly series into a weekly series, Sam. Get on it. Just kidding. Amanda, same question.
Yeah, so I wrote down some notes of how I was going to answer this, but honestly, Marco's answer got me thinking a lot more.
Yeah.
I think the concept of like putting it on the professor is kind of interesting to me. I'm double majoring in social studies ed, and I spent the last semester teaching in a middle school civics classroom. So that's kind of what made me think about that. And um, I guess my opinion and something I really struggled with when teaching was I truly believe like I don't think teachers or professors should ever like I guess self-censor themselves either, because I don't think that there is this hierarchy of like student teacher. It's someone leading a discussion and the other people discussing to me. And I think professors being open about their opinions and being open that it's an opinion and not a fact can also be very productive, because it's saying like, this is my personal belief. This is the argument I make about it. Here are counter arguments. What do you guys think? And making it an open discussion and allowing everybody to share is, I think, really important, because I think we all have opinions, we all have biases. And I think that acknowledging and talking about it is maybe a bit more productive, in my opinion, than I guess censoring it. Because obviously it does make its way into every bit of content a professor would teach, and that's okay. It's natural. It happens. But I truly think also part of the time, I think students also need to put themselves out there with their opinions. And it's when I see a classmate talking and I don't agree, it's still nice for me to see because I know that they're comfortable saying something. And when I say something, it's never, to argue in class. It's that like I want to be able to put that viewpoint forward. So I also think students maybe need to put themselves out there a little bit more, and professors need to focus on facilitating that discussion and creating a more, accepting classroom culture that would allow those discussions to go well and be productive.
Oh, thank you, Amanda. And that's a great segue to the next question. So I'll keep it on, I'll keep it on you. And maybe you already answered it, but I mean, I honestly don't think like what both Marco and Amanda just said, actually what all you just said, none of you are all that far apart from each other. What I heard there is you're talking about improving campus culture. And that's really hard, right? A college campus is an unwieldy beast. I don't know if you know this, but all of us faculty, we all think we're delicate geniuses because we tend to be experts in like one really specific thing. And we have these positions of authority, and that can manifest in all kinds of different ways. And we're also people, right? Prone to saying dumb things and doing dumb things on occasion. So trying to change the entire culture of a place is difficult. Now, that said, we do have policies around institutional neutrality, where the organization itself is not supposed to be taking positions on things that are irrelevant to the actual main task of the organization. But again, we can have debates till the cows come home about what's relevant and what's not relevant. So these are messy topics. But where I'm going with this, Amanda, is with that culture idea. Um, do you have any ideas about how we can make a college campus a place where more viewpoint diversity is welcome? How we can actually encourage that culture so that students aren't self-censoring, so that faculty are more cognizant of the influence they might be having on students' opinions or their propensity for self-censorship. Sorry, that's a lot of pressure I'm putting on you with that question.
No, I love that. And my opinion is I really think a lot of it, unfortunately, just has to happen earlier than college. I think, students have gone through all of K-12 education and they just don't have good argumentation skills, and they haven't been allowed to talk about that in their classes their whole life. So you get to college and you're just thrown into a class, but you're an adult. And I don't want to say it's too late because I definitely think it can be built. And then it might be a matter of going back to the basics a little. I'm like, here's how you research your political opinions and make a decision. And here's how you can have an argument or have a conversation, kind of giving them the very like basic framework. When I was teaching in the middle school, I really noticed that, they teach them how to write an argumentative essay in English class. And it's about what they should have for lunch or if they want recess extended. But it's never brought up in the context of politics or people's social lives. And I think it's connecting those two concepts in students' lives that's maybe just not the easiest thing. And there's nothing really connecting those things right now. And I think unfortunately that's going to get harder with the younger kids, the state of education right now. But I think truly what we can do to create a culture is understand the kind of deficiencies that students may have in their K-12 education with learning social aspects of and making an argument, forming an argument, and just maybe going back to the basics a little bit on that.
I like that, Amanda, and being able to disagree without it being a personal thing. You're respecting someone's right to hold an opinion that differs from yours. Christian, what do you think? Anything we can do here on campus to improve the climate around viewpoint diversity?
Yeah. I would like to point out, or maybe what's it called when you point out a professor who I think does a really good job is kind of a Jerry Thomas model of teaching. Um, he does an absolute fantastic job at the start of the year, discussing that his viewpoint or where he stands on the political spectrum, uh, well as that is stating that he is more than open to stating his opinion on certain topics and giving you a viewpoint from each side, and he does truly do that. Uh, what I think is so amazing about that is that it creates an atmosphere for students uh, to feel involved and not to be ostracized. And he'll always try to pluck something out of each and one of his students what is right and what is wrong, so he can help, understand, help everyone understand where everybody's coming from. And I feel like we need a lot more professors like that who are not scared to say, hey, this is where I stand. But no matter what, no matter where I stand, there will always be a space for you in this classroom. And we need to stop being scared of sharing our views and sharing our opinions, because it creates these issues, obviously, as we've seen. You can't always keep, like Amanda said, you can't always keep politics out of everything. It's just impossible. So creating an environment like that is definitely something I would say, as early as high school. I'd like to say I'd like to keep politics out of, K through 8, maybe start. But yeah, high school, yeah, definitely.
No, you hit on something. Certainly, one of the key tenets of your kind of classical liberalism, so not ideological liberalism, is this idea that you can censor speech, but you don't. That doesn't make the ideas go away. What you're really doing is you're pushing those into dark spaces where if they are, incorrect views, factually incorrect views, there's no one there to discredit them. So you're actually doing more harm than good by censoring. At least that's one point of view there. But Marco, turn it over to you. More viewpoint diversity on campus. How do we get there?
I'm actually going to use probably my favorite Charlie Kirk quote for this one. It's 4 words: read less, or no, debate less, read more. It's that simple. It's a matter of, and I'll say I'm also guilty of this. People put a lot of emphasis on the discussions themselves, but not preparing for them or educating yourself for those discussions. Like I was on my high school debate team, and the actual time you spend debating, hour or 2 max. The time you spend preparing for it, if you're good at what you do and you want to succeed and you want to actually have a good standpoint to go off of, you're going to spend upwards of 48 hours on that, minimum. And obviously, I'm not going to say that the average person has to do this. That's absurd. But, excuse me. But I think that people should definitely be looking at it from the standpoint of, I don't want to just go out here and argue with people and say this is the way I think. No, you should have a reason you think that way. You should have a way to back up what you're saying. You should have a reason that you think the way that you do. More importantly, you should be able to articulate that reason and back it up. And I think that's one big way, is if people are able to at least look at things with that kind of logic, then people on both sides and people in the middle, people with all sorts of opinions, are going to be able to look at things and hopefully look at it logically and say, okay, I can follow your train of thought. I can follow your logic. I may disagree with it. I may take a different path of logic, but I can follow your chain of reasoning from point A to point B. I can understand how you got there. You educated yourself. I respect that. That's what we just need to start getting more of. And going along with what, and that's kind of building off what Amanda said, of having more discussions. That's very important. And I just say, yes, have those, be prepared for them. And going off what Christian said, definitely we need to teach people how to do that. I'm lucky enough that I joined the debate team where they decided to teach me that. It's not something that anyone else knows how to do, really. Most high schoolers don't learn how to go out and research something that they want to learn about on their own. They know how to go and find research for a term paper. They know how to go out and find research for a exam. They're not going out and trying to educate themselves about something that they actually have to defend or something that they want to advocate for. I think having a way to teach that would be good. How we would do that, personally, I would just say, okay, have debate as a class. And then the topics, they're not even political. Because guess what? You can transfer the style of research very easily. Just have it be a non-political topic. You're keeping politics out of it. That way people in the class aren't actually yelling at each other. Just have it be something, okay, go out and research this. Great, now you know how to research a topic that you care about and defend it. Go do that for everything else. I think that would just solve a lot of what we see in today's world.
Awesome. Thank you, Marco. And you do have someone in the chat who agrees with you. Says too many people have opinions on things they don't know anything about. They're just repeating comments from others. Emma, last word on this. Things we can do to improve viewpoint diversity on campus.
I feel like my opinion on this kind of goes off of Christian's a little bit, but I think a huge part of it is self-reflection. When you are saying something in front of other people, at least in my opinion, you can tell when you're making them uncomfortable. If you are seeing the same people frequently, especially if you are a professor, a college professor, you should be able to tell when students feel uncomfortable to say things around you. And you should look within yourself and kind of think, hey, what am I doing that is preventing my students from speaking freely in my class? Is it how I'm reacting to what they're saying? Is it what I'm teaching? Like a huge part of it is just taking a step back and kind of looking at your side, but also the other people's side and figuring out how you guys are getting along in these conversations and if you are making it so that they feel uncomfortable to share their opinions in front of you. I mean, you shouldn't be doing that. You can tell if someone is uncomfortable to say something in front of you. And if it's getting to that point, you really just need to take a step back and rethink how you want to approach conversations.
No, that's great, Emma. Sorry, I'm smiling because these comments give me so much hope. I want to hold up a giant mirror to myself and all of our colleagues because all of you gave some variation of us that are teaching. Us faculty need to do better. We need to learn these skills. Maybe get a little better at recognizing when we're guiding the conversation in a direction or making people feel uncomfortable, or frankly, not transferring those critical thinking skills that, to Marco's point, translate beyond the political. You're going to use those regardless of what you do after you graduate. So that gives me hope and gives you some ideas for future ones of these. Well, it's like 12:43, and I want to make sure we have time for Q&A. So I had a couple other broad questions for you, like how are you feeling about the state of democracy in the U.S. today? But instead of getting that broad, I'm just going to go right to kind of the last question I had sent to all of you. Um, First, an observation that I shared with all of you already, but I want to share with everybody in the crowd that this was like a snowball sample. The people on the panel helped me get the contact information from one another, which kind of cracked me up and also gave me hope because it's like, hey, you're all representing different organizations, some affiliated with political parties, some more values based, but you all kind of know each other and you all seem to get along with each other, which is pretty cool. So I'd love to ask you each to give me one thing that keeps you up at night that you're most worried about right now, either around politics or around the state of our democracy, and then one thing that gives you hope that we can get through this challenging time. And I'll start with you, Christian.
So you want one thing that worries us and one thing we're hopeful for?
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, when you think about it, kind of going more towards the state of democracy question, it really troubles me and it really worries me about the amount of political violence. And I will admit it. It definitely it happens pretty equally on both sides. Um, when we go to Charlie Kirk or the Minnesota incident, or Trump getting shot at twice, you can see that it's happening to both parties. And what really worries me is that something that Charlie Kirk said is when we stop talking is when violence happens. We've been pushed away from each other and polarized from each other so much that it's turning into pent up anger towards each other and these radicalized ideas that we keep to each other, and we never try to expand out or try to talk to the other side. So my biggest worry and my biggest focus is ensuring that everyone has their viewpoint. There have been plenty of times where I've tried to invite some of my Democratic friends to our meetings so they can express their opinions with us, and we can have a respectful dialogue in the room with each other, where they disagree and where we do agree too. A lot of that keeps me up at night is just the sense that all this violence is happening just because we have an R or a D next to our name. And it's just really upsetting to me. But one thing that does make me very hopeful is that specifically, if you just want to talk about here on campus, I don't see that at all. That makes me hopeful that there are groups of people here that do a great job, that are very kind to each other and are not afraid to share their opinions. That makes me very happy, and I would love to try to find a way that we can extend that across other universities alike.
Well, thank you, Christian. Emma.
I would say one thing that keeps me up at night and worries me is just not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. Especially, I am coming from a social work background. So a lot of what is happening right now with our government is impacting the clients that I work with. So it's very disheartening and worrying not having the answers to everything and not being able to tell my clients this is what's going to happen going forward, because it seems like every day there's a new headline in the news. There's just a lot happening in our country, and I would say that's the most worrisome thing for me. But one thing that gives me hope is seeing people coming together more and supporting each other through what's happening in our country. I feel like no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, people are finding their community within their political groups. Even if we should be all coming together and discussing, it's good to see that people are reaching out to each other more to show each other support. Like with the Charlie Kirk assassination, a lot of people on the conservative side came together to share their grief for him. Or if you're looking at the No Kings protests that just happened, millions of people came together for that, to rally against or rally for something that they believe in. So I guess that's what's giving me hope, is just seeing people become more vocal and supporting each other more, even if it is just on their side.
No, thanks, Emma, for sharing that. And yeah, engagement. We had a panel a year or two ago called The Crisis of Engagement, Civic Engagement, that was all focused on just people checking out and more people getting involved. Certainly a good thing. So I'm glad you shared that. And to quote myself from my TEDx talk, which was lightly attended, we shouldn't all agree on everything. That's it's a pluralistic democracy. We all come from different backgrounds. We have different views, different priorities. That's okay. There's space for it all. But anyways, Marco, you're up next.
Yeah, for me, one thing I would say that concerns me, and I'm going to say this, and I'm just going to preface it with, I do not want anyone to feel like I'm personally attacking them. This is just a broad statement. One of my biggest concerns is the response that we saw after the Charlie Kirk assassination, or in some cases, the lack thereof. We saw a lot of people celebrating a man getting assassinated in front of his family on a college campus on live television because they didn't like what he had to say. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what side he's on. It doesn't matter what you think of him. It matters that he was there trying to have a discussion like this, and someone shot him for it. And we saw people celebrating it. Now, obviously, I'm not trying to say that, everyone on the left is the problem. No, that would be an absurd thing to say. It's a select few individuals that were caught up in the moment and did a stupid thing. Okay, I'm not going to try and say that everyone on the political left is the problem. No, that's stupid. But at the end of the day, we did see some people celebrating this, and that is a very big, at least to me, that's a problem, because going back to what I said earlier about conservative students not feeling safe speaking their minds, why do you think we feel unsafe speaking our minds? You shot the guy that was trying to help us do that. So that's a big concern. And then coming at this from me, the complete absence of a statement from the UW system or from UW Oshkosh specifically, it was mind-boggling. After the November election last year, the next day, the campus put out a statement saying, "We stand with our students and here are the resources available to you." But, it's an election. One guy got the electoral college and the popular vote, one person didn't. That's the way the government works, and the campus says, "Hey, we understand that people might feel certain ways about this." Okay, great. But now our guy gets shot on a college campus and there's no statement about it. Things like that are the reason that conservative students look at campuses and say, "I feel unsafe speaking my mind here." Because a guy gets shot on campus saying the sort of things that we think, and then our school doesn't denounce it, doesn't come out and say that was a terrible thing, doesn't come out and say, "We will try and keep you safe." Nothing. That to me is the core of the issue when it comes to like freedom of speech on campuses and the willingness of people to speak. That's it. That's the problem. And then something I'm hopeful for was the reaction I saw from students on both political sides here on campus. The campus itself may not have said something, but I saw a lot of other students from various, political backgrounds, including a few Democrats and liberals, saying, "Hey, this should not have happened." A close friend of mine from high school, who is very, very much a Democrat, like solidified in his stances. He's got logic behind it. He's got all these things, and he's staunchly a Democrat. The day after the assassination, called me and said, "Hey, I just want you to know that what happened was terrible." That's the sort of thing that gives me hope. We need more of that. We need more people saying, "Hey, I may have disagreed with him, but what happened was terrible." We need less of, "Yay, this man died."
No, thank you, Marco. And I got to give a shout out to Dr. Larson here because two things that touch directly on what you just said. Um, she spearheaded, along with me and Lisa last summer, a series of focus groups around the state. In one thing where there was bipartisan support or bipartisan just agreement was that there's this broader cultural decline and acceptance and almost celebration of violence in our society, and that's bled into our politics, and that how unhealthy that is. And then I guess the other shout out to Sam is her rapid response team with WISACT, where she was able to get a Republican and a Democrat right after the Kirk assassination put out a statement, at least on behalf of her organization, which again I think speaks to your point that there's hope that there are people sprinkled around that are doing this work, even if institutions themselves don't take action. But thanks for sharing all that, Amanda.
Trying to think about how to explain this quite concisely because my initial
Yeah,
answer was kind of building off, what the state of our democracy is. And one thing that
yeah,
I've observed is I think that, especially with young people, um, given their activity on social media, I think like politics is becoming a very um, it's something more than a debate. It feels like a very like fighty, like want to be right, like a power balance argument. And I think like those Jubilee videos and even Charlie Kirk. And I don't think Charlie Kirk was maybe personally doing that, but I think clips on social media when young people are seeing this and it's like one person standing and another person responds, and there's this crowd of people supporting one person. And just the image of like this politics is a debate for being right and for winning. And I think that that is a very dangerous image that's becoming a lot more popular, that I just see all over social media. And I know that, younger kids will definitely be influenced by that a bit. And I think just the idea that there is a kind of winning stance is a bit dangerous. And I think it will not motivate young people to truly have a conversation. It will motivate them to debate to win, and not to learn. So that is something that really keeps me up at night, especially for younger and younger people and the amount that they're on the internet. But one thing that does give me a lot of hope is pretty much exactly what everyone else said, that there are people here who have a community focus. And, I see it every day in Oshkosh, and it just makes me happy that people recognize the issues happening and are doing something to address them.
And I think, I forgot who said it earlier, Amanda, but I think you're echoing the point there that maybe spend more time reading before the debate, and maybe less time farming oftentimes out of context misleading YouTube clips about what somebody said, or didn't say, which I think we've seen a lot of. Well, any questions? We only have 5 minutes, and I apologize for going late, but you all were answering these questions, great, and I wanted to make it about you. But any other questions from the chat? I see a few things there. Oh, Sam's plugging our WIS Act. Don't worry, we don't raise money from you uh, for that. Just want people to participate. But any questions from the audience? Feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat, and I can call on you. I don't know if you have any questions, Dr. Larson.
I can wait for other folks who might be needing to take some time. But yeah, as you mentioned, I just wanted to put our link. So if you want to join as a member, you don't have to do anything. It just is essentially joining to say that you believe in the same principles. So peaceful engagement, building trust, and promoting free, fair, and safe elections. And then you can also join our mailing list. So yeah, I always hesitate to feel a little too sales pitchy on that, but to Marco's point, I think it's important, and one of our biggest roles is condemning violence of all kinds, political and identity-based violence, and so that just seemed like a good time to share that. But it looks like we have Alex raising his hand, Mike.
All right, Alex, I gave you permission to talk because I'm very powerful.
Well, thanks very much. So I have noticed that a big obstacle to people having these conversations is that people try to start by getting on the same page with all the facts. And I've been running a workshop that addresses that. I'm wondering if you're looking for more tools to help people have the conversation about people's concerns first.
Anybody have an answer to that one? I can tell you, I know that there's some groups that I have worked with that will put together these information packets for things like Let's Talk events. They do them at UW-Madison. There was a group doing it in Wausau, and it's a shocking amount of work actually to get that together. So I know there are some small efforts that we at Wicked have funded that try to do that, but I'm not sure if there's anything going on here at UWO's campus anyone's aware of. So I don't think we have a good answer for you, but we know that's a challenge, and maybe that's something that we can try to work on in the future, either Wicked or the Whitburn Center. So thank you, Alex.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah. Frank asked, who among the panelists are considering running for political office at some point? Well, I can say Christian's already holding a county board seat. Isn't that correct, Christian?
Yeah, that is correct. Not running again, but yeah.
What? No, I know you told me that. You're going to law school, right? Like a loser. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I'm actually curious for that conversation too. Marco, Amanda, Emma, do you ever have any ambitions?
I mean, maybe in the future. I'm not running for anything in the near future. I'm actually going to Marine Corps boot camp in spring, so I would be ineligible to run. But after that, maybe.
Okay. Well, you're talking to us a group of people that are very public service minded, and there's many ways to serve. So, Marco, that's certainly one way to do it. And Kristen's doing it right now, and I have no doubt that Emma and Amanda will keep doing it. But Sam, you're going to say something?
You took the words right out of my mouth. There are many ways to serve. And selfishly, I just want to pluck all of you and put you in charge of my government. But I just want to commend all of you for your skill, your ability, your preparation for this conversation. And I think you do such a great job of modeling what we need in this country is people to come together like this, like you all said, and have difficult conversations. And so I'm just so proud of each of you. I'll just say that, and really this, as you all said, this gives me hope too. So I just want to thank all of you again for coming and being here.
Yep, I'll say the same thing. I know Lisa's going to take us home. I do want to call out Paul Broadwin asked about the organization Heterodox Academies. They seem to share the general approach discussed here. You are absolutely correct. And I will say that my organization, Wicked, gives out grants across the UW system. And we did give out a grant last year to fund a chapter that's launching. I believe it's at Eau Claire. It might be Stevens Point. But if there was someone at UWO's campus that really wanted to fund a chapter of that, that'd be a really cool grant to submit because Paul is correct. They do a really good job with that type of work. But I'll just echo what Sam said and thank everyone for participating here. And I'll turn it over to Lisa to send us on our way.
Yes, we want to thank everyone for coming today. If you have any further questions, you can email the Whitburn Center at whitburncenter@uwosh.edu. And we invite you to join us for November's virtual Whitburn and WISAC Wednesday event titled Restoring Trust, Renewing Relations, Lessons from Tribal Governance. And we'll send out details closer to the date. So thank you to everyone for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all again. You all did wonderful. If you have any follow-up questions or comments, please just reach out.
Yeah.